You've reached Hotel Pacifico, your 5-star destination for BC politicos. Press 4 for room service. Press the star key for your hosts Mike McDonald and Kate Hammer.
Welcome back, guests. Thanks for joining us again for early check-in at Hotel Pacifico. Good to see you, Geoff and Mike.
Good, and I hope you can hear me a little better. I'm working hard on that technical part.
Oh, it's the sweet melody of Geoff Meggs.
We freed Geoff from the dungeon.
Yeah. Yeah,
It sounds great today.
some Starlink cutout was hurting me yesterday. I think that's what was happening. Anyway, Elon Musk, I blame him. Okay.
Trying to
He's
censor you.
interfering. He doesn't want your communist conspiracies, Geoff Meggs.
That's right.
He's cutting you out. All right. Well,
Chip
we've got
Wilson and Elon Musk, actually.
I was gonna say we've got lots of billionaires to talk about today. Gosh, it's too much fun. Let's get into it. So and stick around, of course, we'll do the espresso bar again today. First, a bit of check-in on the leaders, as we always do. Obviously, they're close to home today. They've got the leaders debate tonight at 6:30. So I think John Rusted's got an announcement this morning in Coquitlam, but otherwise it's pretty quiet. I'm suspecting they're doing a lot of debate prep. What do you think, Mike? Geoff, yeah?
Yeah, I know by now, but no sign
think.
of Premier Eby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Guess he needs more prep. Rusted's out there doing an announcement at 9:30, way out in Coquitlam.
He's got a team combing back through all of those YouTube videos that Rusted's done over the last 6 months to look for some more gems.
Well, Rusted's out at Riverview, so pretty clear what that's going to be about. Probably involuntary care.
Mm-hmm.
He did public safety yesterday, so I guess he's working it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can we start there? Can we start with the Conservatives just in our review of Monday? Because the Conservatives had a fascinating new video ad about community safety. And I'm wondering if you both watched it. This is one with children seeing the headlines, being wrapped in blankets, and comforted by their parents as they see the state of BC streets. Mike, what did you think of this ad?
I think it's a 60-second ad, so I don't think it's going to be on TV in that duration, the one I saw. But it will obviously live online for sure. I always find it interesting when there's testimonials in ads, and that looked like a legit kind of testimonial in there of a mother who lives in a neighborhood impacted by crime and street issues. So there are also lots of kids in the ads, so obviously they've got permissions to use the faces of kids and things. So some thought went into it. I think it depends who you are. Some people may think it's over the top. It may connect with people that are more casual observers of politics who get drawn in by the emotion of the issue. It's, I think the Conservatives have a theory there that they can push a hot button.
Yeah. Geoff, do you think there's something workable here and just how maybe
I don't know.
Parents in particular might be feeling nervous about street safety?
Well, sure. No one in British Columbia who's seen the news would say that those incidents did not occur. The question is, how much do they occur for most people? And, the conditions are unacceptable for the kids. What I've found a bit worrisome about the debate, I would say this across the board, is that the discussion has been much more about the symptoms of the addiction and mental health crisis than they have been about the causes, and much more about keeping the rest of us away from those other addicts than to actually deal with their problems. I could say that the Rustad campaign was leading that because they have so many media hits and other things with homeless people as a backdrop. And I was trying to cast my mind back to when I first encountered a homeless encampment, and I think it was the Woodward Squat, which was during the civic election in 2002. Which led to a whole lot of work. And in retrospect, was the model that came later. You had to move people into housing. You could not just sort of, get the police to do a baton charge and get them out into the street. And many of the features of the Woodward Squad have become permanent features of life, not just in Vancouver, but right across the province. And so it's not a new thing. And it's not clear to me that the risks are worse for a kid who may find paraphernalia in the schoolyard as they may be for someone eating at a Tim Hortons who sees it has a bullet get embedded in the next to them, which happened in Vancouver about 6 months ago when there was a shootout right down close to the library. So I think it's very interesting and worrisome how this is being dealt with.
Well, I
And
think the
so,
Board of Trade research that came out last week was pretty clear what the public thinks,
oh, absolutely.
and they
Yeah,
think
I
it's
agree.
getting worse, right?
Sure. Well, it
And
is
I think
visibly
They
worse, but
do, but I wonder how live, because I'm thinking the ad I was thinking of too is one that's just shots of children watching the news and like literally
mm,
like it starts with a parent wrapping a blanket around a pair of kids and then there's like a toddler with a remote control watching it, and I sort of thought to myself, this feels like a horror film as produced by the Hallmark Channel. Like it was just so it just felt so dissonant. I couldn't I felt uncomfortable watching it. And I wonder whether in this there's a bit of a like they're right that there's a ripe emotion here and a lot of concern, but I as a parent in particular I'm going to say like it's not it's just stoking fear. It's not offering the solution. It's sort of like this
well,
I felt kind of I
it's not
resented
like the
almost feeling
conservatives aren't putting
manipulated.
prescriptions forward. They are. They may not
Not
be
in
the
this
ones
ad though,
everyone agrees
right?
with.
Yeah,
Well,
not in this ad. Yeah.
but it does connect to a platform that
mhm.
of involuntary care to treatment, et cetera, more resources for cops and a whole litany of things that Rusted put out yesterday. Um, and it's, back to our discussion yesterday. I mean, I think from a strategic point of view, it's conservatives should be talking about this stuff along with affordability all day long. Like this is their meat and potatoes. This is what's getting them to where they're at. So whether or not the ad is, a 10 out of 10 is, up for debate for sure. But I think they're on the right topic.
The right
Yeah,
issue. Yeah.
I agree with that. And I think it also it doesn't talk about the solutions, but it's because they're just trying to remind everybody that they believe David Eby's been responsible for allowing it to get to an absolute
Mhm.
new high. Certainly, I don't mean to imply at all that it's the same as it was in 2002. It's completely different.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, so this was the Rusted was downtown at the site of the kind of there was the stabbing and the beheading sort of or yeah, sorry, the
Be
stabbing
handing,
and
be
the
handing.
behanding, sorry, yeah. Sorry, this got more gruesome. Anyway, at the site of the sort of random attacks in Vancouver that were in September. And I think really did make an effort yesterday to make this the topic. That said, what was leading the news for Global and CBC, I believe, were the Nuremberg comments. So it does seem we've gone back to something that does seem to be sticking to John Rustad and maybe questioning
Mhm.
a bit of really bringing forward this attack that the NDP are trying to make that he's a conspiracy theorist. Is there something in particular, Geoff, about the Nuremberg story that means that this one's sticking around and leading the news?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I think the research done by Press Progress was very interesting because it seemed to me we'd previously seen an earlier clip in the same Zoom call. I'm not sure about that, but it's not the first time the campaign's touched on his relationship, Russet's relationship with people who are very concerned about the pandemic. But this was the one where it got to the weirdest, outlandish spot where we learned about a view there should be global crimes against humanity trials for people who manage the pandemic. And initially, the NDP campaign was going to try to pass it by because this was also happening on the day that was the first anniversary of the Hamas attacks. But I saw that David Eby was challenged, of course, by the media to comment on it, and he did condemn it, and so it became a story all day. Also, because Rustad realized it was a problem and made that apology of sorts. So, by validating it, which he had to do with the preemptive apology, he pretty much ensured it would be a big story yesterday. And I think we'll hear about it again in the debate, as Mike forecast yesterday.
Well, the NDP certainly are on the attack, and I think that was the day yesterday. They did have the announcement about the mental health counselors in schools. I think it was a commitment for one in every school. But really, I think, Mike, we're seeing them move the machinery more into the attack space, and that's more the focus right now.
Well, I mean, I think the Nuremberg story is a good example of deflecting off of issues that they're vulnerable on. And the conservatives talking about crime and addiction is something that they have an advantage on. And I'm sure coming out of the debate, John Rustad will want the story to be about the NDP record on affordability, deficits, crime, uh, closed DRs. That's the narrative the conservatives need in the final 10 days. So, I mean, these stories about kind of, foibles or conspiracies, that type of thing, will wax and wane during the campaign. And we saw it last week, the weekend previously, where Eby put out a letter calling for candidates to resign, and he handed over the memo during the radio debate. And previously, those had limited impact, in my opinion. Questionable impact. Conservatives were strong on their core messages early in the week, last week. So, I'd caution the NDP about getting too distracted by that stuff, because voters do want to hear from them on the issues that they're most concerned about. And I don't think they're that concerned about what politicians say, how they misspeak or say crazy things. Now, the pattern of, wacky stuff, as quote Andrew Wilkinson, the pattern of wacky stuff, is a concern for the Conservatives. They really need to, in the last 8 or 9 days, be reassuring to voters that if they are elected and given the keys to the government, that, they're going to fix the problems. They're not going to be zipping off on some, tangent.
Which I think is going to be crucial for Rustad to up his game during the debate somehow, so that he makes eye contact, doesn't stare straight ahead like a mannequin in a store. Like those of us who watched it online last time could see. Verbally, he was fine. Physically, he was very, very stiff. I think voters agree that the campaigns have identified the right issues. They're just trying to, and I think most voters think they're really tough issues and they weren't actually caused by David Eby doing this, that, or the other thing. But they're wondering who's got the steadiest hand to deal with them. And that's why the wacky stuff is so important. It is unsettling to think that a guy would get on a Zoom call and say to people, yeah, if there's a chance to have a big global trial of COVID people, I want to take a look at that. We'll do our part. Like that. That was very, very weird. And so it's important for Rustad to appear.
So he'll probably say, I'll tell you what's weird is crack pipe dispensing machines in front of an animal hospital. So that's how he's got to pivot, right?
Yeah.
And
he's not a good pivoter.
Different takes on the radio debate.
You're getting ahead though. We're going to get to the debate in a second. And there's one more thing I want to talk about, because I'm just wondering, is Chip Wilson going to keep making signs for us? And Geoff, do you keep sliding him like poster board and markers? Like, how much is this gonna continue?
I don't know.
I joke because it feels like a gift to the NDP, just that he seems to even be doubling down. Sorry. So we had first the sign of calling David Eby a communist. And now there's a new sign. Well,
that's true. Yeah. And then I don't know. What will happen.
Jordan Armstrong's tweet has 334,000 views on it right now.
Yeah.
Which the tweet is a picture of Chip's. All he did was go take a picture of the sign.
Yeah.
And there it is. So that's kind of remarkable in and of itself, is how much attention the sign is getting. So Chip's got everyone's attention. So we've actually put something that's on message there that might really help his cause. Exactly. So, but let's just say what the sign says in case our listeners.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's
voters seem to forget when Eby gives us money, it is the voters' money he has already taken. There you go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of good red emphasis on the sign too.
Yes,
nice font.
Point Grey Road residents are really quick to put up the great big, 4x4 signs. They did that on the speculation tax. There's a group of people there, not just
because those cyclists going by, they've got to be careful not to get distracted, crash into a tree.
Reconciled to the massive traffic calming investment that was the bike lane in Point Grey. But anyway, yeah, well, I think it's symptomatic of what a strange campaign this is in many ways, that something like that would just become thermonuclear in terms of social media. I don't know what it means, but I think it's a sort of a strange sign of disengagement in a funny way.
Well, there's this thing on social media, and this is what I mean. This is what happens. It's like social media, there's an authenticity and something organic that needs to happen for this stuff really to travel. So Chip Wilson putting a sign on his lawn is that. But it's interesting because I think you either sort of react like you're like, yeah, Chip Wilson said it, or you're like, oh my God, Chip Wilson lamenting the loss of his tax dollars is just the most hilarious thing ever. Like bemoaning the tax dollars that fund schools and healthcare is just like.
So John Rustad tweeted at him last night, or tweeted at Jordan Armstrong, and just said, sorry, Chip, no Rustad rebate for you, after David Eby had tweeted at him saying, oh, billionaires.
Yeah.
So everyone's getting in on the in the story. So
Okay, forgive me for being too technical, but I did read the new sign, the new Chip Wilson sign, and say, oh, so is the Rustad rebate not tax dollars? Like, is there a different math that applies to the Rustad rebate,
he's
Chip
not giving it
Wilson?
back. He's letting them keep the money in their pocket.
Okay. You're right.
Yeah.
Important
Yeah.
distinction there. All
Yes.
right.
He's not recirculating it to spending.
Oh, so fun.
To
Okay.
law enforcement.
Guess, as BC's hometown team and largest employer, TELUS is working with the BC government to support their environmental goals. That means a commitment to renewable energy, as TELUS aims to achieve net carbon neutrality in its operations by 2030, aligning with BC's target. Tangible BC-based proof points of this work include TELUS buildings in Vancouver and Victoria, which have achieved LEED Platinum certification. This includes TELUS Garden in Vancouver, the 500,000 square foot office tower at the corner of West Georgia and Richards. It's hard to miss. It's the one with the 4-story cantilevered gardens. And TELUS Ocean, the soon-to-be-open TELUS office on Douglas Street in downtown Victoria. That building is seeking LEED Platinum, WELL Building, CA/GBC Zero Carbon Building, and Salmon Safe certifications. Yup, you heard that right, Salmon Safe certification. Because being the hometown team means caring about water quality, habitat preservation, and fish too. We'll talk more about this next week.
All right. Let's move it along. Let's move to the lactose intensive part of the show. Milking the Data, brought to you by BC Dairy. Farmers need guaranteed access to water to feed BC. We have fresh Polera numbers straight from the cow. Right, Mike? Are you the
Ooh.
cow? Yeah.
I've got no, I have a stable of dairy cows that are
You're the
producing
farmer.
numbers
You're
on
the
a
farmer.
nightly
Okay.
basis.
Yeah.
And we got ourselves a cow race here. Let me tell you.
Ooh. Cows are not very fast. Is this metaphor going to keep working? Go ahead.
It might. It might.
Okay, keep going. Just try it. Roll.
Well, the greens are up, despite my admonitions of Sonia's message or lack
Yeah, it's
thereof.
interesting.
It
Yeah.
seems that the voters are ignoring me. Greens are up to 13.
Oh,
The NDP and the Conservatives are tied at 41. So what we've seen is the Conservative fever that swept through some of last week has cooled a little bit.
And gone to the greens?
Well, not necessarily. It all swishes around a bit. Some might go back to undecided, some might go green, some might go switch to NDP, and maybe some NDP's gone to green. It's, voters aren't necessarily linear in these things. The one thing that's underlying this, there's a number of things, but one thing that does strike me is that the 65 plus have gone back towards the NDP. And so that's that had tightened a bit last week, and now that's stretched out. So now when we talk about subsets, the margin of error is a little bit higher, but it does strike me as one reason why these numbers have tightened a bit. So, but Lower Mainland's tight. It's pretty much tied as well. So it's we're in a real tight place getting into the TV debate tonight. And if I'm the Conservatives, I'm concerned. I want to kind of get the momentum back going in the direction it was going last week. And the NDP are like, phew, better to be tied than going the other way. It could have been 5-point Conservative lead or 7-point Conservative lead if things are really gone out of hand. But now they've got it back to a stalemate here.
Also,
So, yeah,
like a 9-month long wave seems to have crested.
no, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say
No?
that.
Why
I
not?
think on the eve of the election, we were basically tied. And then the Conservatives went up, and now they've gone down a little bit.
Yeah, but
And
this is what I mean. This is their first down. Like they've been steady up.
yeah,
That's what I mean. Like, right? Like,
yeah,
sorry, I don't mean that it's done. That maybe my metaphor is I'm overstretching, but
yeah.
for the NDP, it's been this consistent
We're,
experience of like you go and they're up and they're up and they're up. Every time you look, they're up, they're up.
oh, I see.
And this, right? Like this is the first time we're looking at the data and saying, okay, something's been
Yeah,
saturated. Something within the
Well, we're
electorate has
talking
been
about very
saturated.
marginal differences here, but I think during the campaign it's going to be a bit like this. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, this is your point taken. This is one of the few times we have seen the NDP manage to wrestle down the beast of the conservative trajectory.
Look at the relief on Jeff's face.
No, it's all good. No,
He's so
That's what
expressive.
relief looks
no,
like.
but I
I
do
know.
I hate to
I
see it
do
when he's really
agree.
worried.
I do
Jeff, you
agree.
must be so good at poker. All right. This is
No,
interesting. Yeah. Do you want to add anything, Jeff?
no, I agree with you, Kate. I think that there was constant growth, and I think that the conservatives are now at the point where it's not just pulling together the free enterprise vote; it's actually winning some other people, and they're not succeeding at that. But it's problematic for David Eby, of course, because he's not been able to convince people that Rusted's too risky yet. We'll see. Tonight is a big deal, though, obviously.
Are you an electricity generation provider with experience delivering projects in Canada? Our sponsor, FortisBC, wants to hear from you. FortisBC is seeking power providers to bring new or existing projects online and increase the amount of electricity available for its customers. FortisBC has issued a formal request for expressions of interest for additional power to support the energy needs and economic growth of BC's southern interior, where the company delivers electricity. Some of our listeners might not be aware that FortisBC owns 4 hydroelectric generating plants on the Kootenay River, which allow their over 190,000 electric customers to receive approximately 1,609 gigawatt hours of energy supply each year. They meet the remainder of their customers' energy requirements by purchasing electricity. But they need more energy to meet the growing energy needs of its customers in the future. FortisBC is looking for power providers with a focus on developing innovative renewable and lower carbon energy sources, including biomass, biogas, hydroelectricity, solar, wind, and geothermal projects. FortisBC is particularly interested in new or existing projects that have a strong Indigenous equity component or are Indigenous-led. Ensuring customers have the energy they need when they need it is of critical importance for FortisBC. That's why FortisBC is looking to add up to 1,100 gigawatt hours of energy supply as soon as 2030. To learn more, visit fortisbc.com/newpower. FortisBC, energy for a better BC and a better podcast.
So our topic of the day today, we're going to talk about the debate. It is debate night tonight at 6:30. We'll all be tuning in. I'm looking forward to talking about it tomorrow. Friend of the pod, Shachi Curl, and friend of Hotel Pacifico will be moderating the debate. Let's talk a little bit about the format. I mean, Mike, in particular. Are we going to be able to get, I think, because I'm going to say in the radio debate, it was a little bit tough. It was a lot of talking over each other. Are we going to expect to see a bit more of that tonight in this format, or will there be better, mic off options?
All I've been told is to expect spirited debate.
Okay.
Now, I think the trend on debates has been to allow more free play, because there was a period in debates few cycles ago that it was just a little too canned, a little too set piece and too rules oriented. And now I'm expecting there'll be some good candid exchanges tonight. And the biggest opportunity for any leader tonight is for Sonia to, as she did last, my recollection is the debate in 2020, she stood out and had a little bump after the debate. May have saved her seat and helped Adam Olsen. Now, this time, I mean, she has been a little creeping up on the polls there. So, I don't know who that's going to hurt exactly, right? If she got up to 15 or 16 points because of the debate, is that coming off the NDP or the Conservatives? That would remain to be seen. So I'm not automatically saying a rise in Sonia means bad for NDP.
Well, also
But,
because it's also it's also where because of their absence in all these ridings, right? Like the math becomes a bit more complicated of what their rise means. Yeah.
But the Greens have been punching below their weight compared to last election on Vancouver Island, and if she wakes up Vancouver Island a bit, that'll be good for her because that's where her greatest opportunity lies.
Mm.
along with West Van Sea to Sky. They got a little pocket in Nelson, but it's the coast is, they got a full slate on the island. They got 27% on the island last time. That's that's where they get a lot of votes. But the main event, is Rustad ready to is he ready for prime time? Are people willing to trust him with government? And EB, is he gonna be on message, or is he gonna be a little off-putting? Is he gonna be a little too glib? Um, well, those are kind of the dynamics we'll be watching for.
Would you agree with that, Jeff? What the kind of imperative is for the three leaders?
Well, Rustad likes to say that he's common sense, but a lot of what he says makes no sense whatsoever and is not practical. And what he has to guard against is his willingness to include everybody from automatic rifle owners to Nuremberg trial supporters to all of that kind of stuff in the dialogue. That's not what people in BC are talking about. And yet he has been talking about it. And I think he's been making prescriptions which don't pass the head nod test as easy or simple to do, like clear out the tent cities and stop people from using drugs inside supported housing. He's got a lot of very authoritarian declarative things that he says he would just do, which are not there. And so a lot of things that aren't even in provincial jurisdiction. So he's got to try to appear, as I said earlier, normal. And Evie's job is to say, look, I'm the competent, steady hand here who is actually going to be able to get a lot of this stuff done. And he's starting from a strong point because a lot of the polling shows that people still see EB as the best person to be premier, as steady, a hard worker, and competent. To a larger degree than they see that of Rustad. Not as much as they did maybe 6 months ago, but still significantly more than Rustad. And I agree about Sonia. Like the
Oh,
nice,
sorry. What are you saying is significantly more that they
well, he
see?
continues. Evie's personal approval continues to be superior to
I I,
Rustad's. And
I don't
I
think
think,
there's a gap, but I don't think it's huge, you know.
well, okay, but I would argue that's an important point. I think
Advantage
people are
EB.
more people see that.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so for Sonia though, she's unlike an American debate where it's usually 1-to-1 or a mob of seven or something. Sonia is there as a credible person with an ability to render a judgment right in the debate, which is a sort of an
Mhm.
interesting dynamic. She can say these two people, or she can actually say this person or that person has said something which everybody outside can, and people will hear her more than they will hear the other two. So I think it'll be very dynamic in that respect. I mean, this is her last campaign. If she wins, she's probably not going to run again
Why do
in
you think
four
it's your last?
years.
Did she say that?
No, I'm saying it.
You're
I mean,
saying
she
it. Okay,
she
you've
left she
announced it.
left her riding where she was incumbent to run against a
Yeah,
very tough, it's
yeah.
turning into a three-way race. But she's rolling the dice on the future of the Green Party, and she wants to move into Victoria, into Beacon Hill. So she can
Mm.
say what she deeply believes is true, and she's articulate, she's feisty. So I think she'll be a dynamic force in there. It'll be interesting to see where she goes. She's more inclined to be critical of Rustad, I think, than of Eby, just based on all of the common things from the CASA agreement that they worked on. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm nervous.
Mm.
Well, but as I said in previous shows, I mean, I gotta think she's gonna go after EB for backtracking on the carbon tax.
Sure.
Well, yeah, but who cares? Nobody's talked about it.
Sure.
That may
I
Well,
be,
all the more
yeah.
reason to talk about it.
well, I don't
Well,
know. It's their big, I don't see anybody carrying, sorry, nobody's going to sign in front of their
Well,
house
in a
saying, bring
world where
back the
you've got
carbon tax.
13% of the vote, and I would say well over 30% support the carbon tax, it's like, it's seems like a pretty good opportunity to me. But
Yeah. She put in a
she's
strong mental health platform. I think she's more likely to go on involuntary care and some of that stuff.
hmm 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 I mean, yeah, she's got an opportunity to stand next to those two men, and I think you said it, Mike, when you were sort of hammering her for not having a message and saying, "Don't say," it's like less like let's be Denmark and more like we can be better, we can be better. And I think like that's a really comfortable space for her to occupy. Um, I think for John Rostad and David Eby, like I agree with you, Jeff. Like in watching the radio debate, like there's something very interesting about John Rostad's kind of physical presence and posture. I'm wondering if they're standing, it might be a little bit better because when he was seated, he just looked a little slumped and angry, and he didn't move. Like he was like this sort
mm,
of Easter Island head, right? And I think you want to actually like when he's standing, it might be better. And again, his voice comes across really calm and steady. And so there's an opportunity there. I think the risk is, and again, maybe I'm reading in too much into the socials and the like, John Rustad won the debate reaction, but it's like, again, like learn from that, build on that. Because I'm going to guarantee you that David Eby probably heard pretty consistently the chorus of stop lawyering. And I'm gonna guess that we're gonna see him leaning into some warmth and some kind of personal anecdotes tonight. I think I mean, you can say what you want about David Eby. He's smart and he's hardworking,
Well, I
and I
wonder
think
if we'll
he
see
will.
humility, I wonder if
Yeah,
we'll,
yeah, yeah.
wonder if
No,
we're going to see, we haven't got it right on a bunch of things,
good point.
but we're gonna work real hard next 4 years,
Yeah.
to fix that. Because I think that's the voters do want a pound of flesh one way or another.
Well,
And that's one
interesting.
way to give
Related
it.
to this, actually, I was reading something. James Carville, a friend sent me something. James Carville was writing about Kamala Harris and sort of, it's about the U.S. dynamic where Trump's coming and going like, burn it down, right? And I think and James Carville kind of articulating for Kamala Harris the opportunity, saying, yeah, but people have something they want to protect. Right? It's like that's the danger in the burn it down message. And I would say John Rostad similarly has a kind of burn it down message. And so I think that's the kind of space for David Eby. It's like saying like, yeah, like we got to do better. And it's because we have a lot to protect. Right? Like there's a little bit of like it's not as though we have nothing. And that's why voters are so nervous. We all have something we've worked hard for that we want to protect. So I think there is a course there for him. And I think he does have some potential to occupy that space. But again, like I have a suspicion, like a lot of what we'll see out of tonight, because it's so heated and so back and forth, will be about that kind of the tenor they hit, the sort of how do they seem as people, more so than like any kind of zinger on a particular issue, or a sort of a position on any particular
Just before
issue.
we leave this, there have been more and more pieces coming from the NDP campaign of real people, identifiable people, not actors, who are
Are they
saying this
real?
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
They put an ad out the other
yeah,
day that
yeah.
had some stock photos of medical workers in Surrey that were from like 2009 or something like that. So
Okay, well, then,
Adobe
but I'm talking about
stock
something else,
images.
Mike. I'm talking about the ones where the people say a very recent one.
Are they actually people talking? Okay.
This had made a real difference for me. And I think those are what he needs to be doing more of, because there are a lot of people like that. I remember the adult basic education announcement, which only provided free adult basic education to people who were trying to get back into high school and so on, was just game changing for hundreds and hundreds of people, not hundreds of thousands of people, but their testimonials spoke volumes for what was happening to people in BC as a result of some of the changes that Horgan was making. And I think there's those people now as well.
My name's Georgie, and I live on the Sunshine Coast of beautiful British Columbia. We've been here for 20 years, and I've been a superhost on Airbnb for 3 years now. We actually built the guest house for friends and family, and as we got older and they got older, we weren't getting friends and family. And it's such a beautiful place that we thought we really should share it. It's really special to me, and the income from Airbnb helps us in our retirement. We've met people that we've kept in touch with, and many people that will come back just because of the hosting experiences. It opens it up to a whole new world.
Learn more at airbnb.com/host.
All right, let's grab a coffee.
I'll
Jeff, do
start.
you want to? Yeah, Mike, you
Oh,
kick us off.
I was
No,
going to
I was just
volunteer.
gonna change it up, but
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'll go.
go.
I will raise my mug of cold coffee, although it's meant as a compliment, to Gordon Wilson.
Oh,
Today's the TV debate.
name from
Probably
the
the
past.
greatest line in TV debate history in British Columbia politics was Gordon Wilson, 1991, referring to Rita Johnson, the social credit premier, and Mike Harcourt. As they were squabbling, he said, and this is why nothing gets done in British Columbia. And it's that moment changed a lot of things in British Columbia. It really set off the BC Liberals on a massive heater for the rest of the campaign, became official opposition, eventually set up government 8 years later. Now, I'm not saying the debate is entirely responsible for all of that, but it was a big part of it. And that was at a time when everyone watched. So Gordon Wilson, you made a big impact on British Columbia politics to this day, and and just to add to that, he was a amateur actor. So I happened to be at the studio that night as a young liberal, as part of the entourage of Gordon Wilson, and he was in the zone before that debate, breathing exercises. I remember him walking around, just don't talk to him, just let him, get ready, and he delivered. So, anyways, Gordon Wilson.
Nice. Geoff?
I got a lot of positive feedback from speechwriters who were grateful for my remembering that their silent role. But I did get some feedback that I was apparently or implicitly disparaging of lawyers in the working on the NDP team who've been working on this Electoral Act name change thing. So I have enormous respect for that group as well. And if anybody thought I was demeaning them, nothing could be further from the truth. But without going back over that issue, it is the case, apparently, that many, many British Columbians think that they're voting for Pierre Poilievre. Whether this legal action would have fixed that, it's hard to say. But anyway, sorry, lawyers. I'll take that one on myself.
Okay. But then if that's the problem too, just giving headlines to the issue shows how much the BC Conservatives are trying to hitch their wagon to the federal Conservatives. So that's the strategy there, right? Yeah. To daylight the distance between them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. It felt like something that probably had some thinking behind it. So good. No, respect for lawyers.
Is that the new NDP slogan?
Well,
respect for lawyers.
I feel like I feel a bit hypocritical. I have to be honest. I've spent some time trying to figure out. I mean, especially as a journalist, you're like, how am I going to let me say this? But we'll respect them today. So actually, I was gonna raise a delicious foaming latte to Tim Thielman, just because I'm just enjoying him so thoroughly on socials. I'm realizing we did touch on it recently, I think in the last episode. So, but we haven't spent too much time just saying like he is just such a natural at coming across as just a likable person, a sort of common sense on the ground kind of candidate, and I just enjoy. It's one of those things like whether you agree with him or not, he's too compelling not to watch. And so my glass is raised to him. He's one of the best games there are though right now. All right. Thanks for joining us again. That's another episode of Hotel Pacifico. Thanks for joining us, guests, for episode 11 of our daily election podcast. I want to thank our presenting sponsor, TELUS, our sponsors, Fortis BC, Airbnb, and BC Dairy. We will see you Wednesday, guests. BC, you can never leave.
Checkout time at Hotel Pacifico. We hope you enjoyed your stay.